There was a movie that a lot of people were watching over the weekend, and it was trending all around Twitter and things like that. This is The Tragedy of Macbeth. The Tragedy of Macbeth, it was a movie version based on Macbeth by Shakespeare, starring Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand. And it was slightly controversial because, as you might recognize, Denzel Washington is not a particularly well-known Scotsman, and the play is about a Scottish king. But I decided I was going to sit down, I was going to watch the movie. Joel Cohen, one of the greatest living directors, Denzel Washington, one of the greatest living actors, Frances McDormand, one of the greatest living actresses, and Macbeth, one of the greatest plays ever written. You will be unsurprised to hear it was a very, very good movie. And I thought, when I was watching this movie about an extremely corrupt political order that is based on treachery, sometimes outright murder, that rips the polity asunder and leads to horrible problems for the whole society, I thought, this might have something to tell us about our country today. Maybe more people should. Maybe that's the reason they made the movie in the first place. Now, we'll get to more on that in 1 second, but speaking of movies, I'm very excited to announce the release of the Daily Wire's first original production. We released a movie that had already been made last year, and we bought the distribution rights because people were trying to cancel it. So that was our first movie. This is our first original movie. It's called Shut In. It is a seat-gripping thriller that will be available to stream in February. Follows the story of a young mother who's barricaded inside a closet by her violent ex-husband. As she's trapped inside, she uses nothing but her voice to guide her children on the other side of the walls to safety, all while the threat of her dangerous ex looms. So go check it out. It's really cool. We cannot wait to share the finished product with you. So make sure you catch the final trailer when it drops tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you're planning on adding this terrifying thriller to your queue, you want us to keep making that content that the mainstream media do not want to produce, then go like and share the trailer on YouTube. Your support makes all the difference. Also, we're going to have Backstage. Finally, again, DW is one of the first in the nation to file suit against the Biden administration on their unconstitutional OSHA vaccine mandate. Our case made it to the Supreme Court, and we won. Tune in tomorrow night to catch an all-new episode of Backstage where we discuss the outcome of that Supreme Court ruling. It's going to be wonderful. We're going to drink a lot of leftist tears. It's going to be me, Ben, Jeremy, Matt, and Drew, 7 p.m., 6 p.m. Central, dailywire.com, or you can stream it on our YouTube channel, Daily Wire. I really loved this movie, The Tragedy of Macbeth. It's kind of an artsy film. It's black and white. It's an ambitious adaptation. It's minimalist in its set design, but it's artsy. So if you don't like artsy movies, this is not going to be the movie for you. But it is one of the greatest plays ever written by the greatest English playwright with some of the greatest living actors and actresses and the greatest directors. So it's really wonderful. The one controversy of it was that Denzel Washington obviously is not Scottish. He's a black guy. So should a black guy be allowed to play a white part? And is this woke? And is this politically correct? The debate over colorblind casting is an extremely complicated one. It's not a simple answer one way or the other, folks. This has been a debate that's gone on for decades. One of the great proponents of colorblind casting is a guy named Bob Brustein, who was the founder of the Yale Repertory Theater and is a sort of legend in the theater world. He's a white guy. He's a big proponent of colorblind casting, having black people play white parts and not taking into account an actor's ethnicity. August Wilson, who's probably the most famous black playwright of the last 100 years, maybe the most famous black playwright in American history, he hated colorblind casting. He said black people should not play white parts, white people should not play black parts. This is insane. Race involves lots of cultural aspects, and you can't suspend disbelief and you shouldn't do it. There's also this double standard now, which is that white actors are not allowed to play any non-white parts. And if they are, there's a big uproar and the woke people scream about it. White actors are not even allowed to voice non-white parts. The white actor who voiced Apu on The Simpsons got canceled from the part because you're not allowed to do that anymore. So yes, there's a double standard. It's preposterous. It's silly. However, if you can get past all of the stupid woke stuff and just recognize that Denzel Washington is one of the greatest living actors and his performance in this movie is just incredible, then I think you can tune out all of the noise. Furthermore, you can say that Shakespeare is writing about not specific issues only related to Scotland, but he's writing about the human condition, and therefore it makes a lot more sense for a black guy to play that role. Even though it's a Scottish role, really the play is about the human condition. Whereas if you had Denzel Washington starring in the remake of The Sopranos, that probably wouldn't make a lot of sense, would it? The Sopranos is very specifically about an Italian-American family, so it wouldn't make sense to have a non-Italian actor play that part. Okay, that's a little bit of the controversy around it. The reason I even bring up the movie, though, is because the play is about fate versus free will. And the movie, Joel Cohen really brings this out. Macbeth opens up the play. One of the very first scenes of the play, he's walking up and he sees a bunch of witches, and the witches tell him his future, and they say, you're going to become king, but you're not going to have a line of kings. And tells his partner, Banquo, you're not going to be king, but your kids are going to become king. And this is going to happen and this is going to happen. And Macbeth is struck with this, and he says, well, hold on, if all of this is going to, first of all, do I believe these witches that that's really going to happen? And then he sees some proof that some of their predictions came true. And he says, well, okay, if it's going to happen, then I guess I don't need to do anything. He says, if chance will have me king, why chance may crown me without my stir? I'm not going to do anything about it. But then he does do something about it. He says, mostly because his wife, Lady Macbeth, is just an early version of Hillary Clinton, and she's this sort of wicked political character who just impels him and convinces him to kill the king and become king himself. And so he does participate in it. But was that always fated, or did he really have free choice? And by the end, he and his Hillary Clinton wife go completely insane. And she becomes extremely depressed. He becomes very depressed. He can't sleep anymore because he killed the king in his sleep. He says, sleep no more, Macbeth does murder sleep. I'll never sleep again, because one, he saw the king die in his sleep, and two, because he's racked by the moral reality of what he's done. One of the most famous lines of the entire place is, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time, and all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out brief candle, life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. That's what a lot of people think life is today. That's what they think, that it's all just kind of a joke. It's all just kind of a farce, a tale told by an idiot signifying nothing. Our hopes, our dreams, our loves, our joys, it's all just an illusion, man. You know, it's just chemicals firing off in our brain. And it's just, by the way, if you don't like how you're feeling, just take a pill and then you'll feel better. Or just do some other drugs, or just go have sex with somebody, or go some sort of casual sex, or just go have a drink, or just go play video games, or just plug into the metaverse, or just give yourself pleasure, because that's all it is. It doesn't mean anything. But what Macbeth and his wife realize after they've committed this horrible sin is that the sin really does mean something. Another one of the most famous lines is, you've got Hillary Clinton there, Lady Macbeth, and she's saying, out damned spot. Out, she's trying to rub out the blood, rub out what she's done, but she can't. She can't forget it. Macbeth can't sleep because he can't forget what he actually did, because it does signify something. It does. Life actually does matter, the things we do. There is a moral universe, and we're living in an age where we try to blot all that out, and we say that everything is just about power. Right? The left says that politics is just different interest groups, and usually they push interest groups on racial or sexual lines. It's just them vying for power. And there's no sense, and there's no order, and there's no truth, and there's no justice, and there's no goodness. It's just interest and power. And frankly, you have people on the right saying almost the same thing. It's amazing that it's the conservatives who for the past 30 years have said all life is about is money and just boosting GDP and cutting taxes. And you do you. And we're not going to legislate morality. And don't yuck my yum. And who's to say what's good? I mean, they sound just like the liberals. And they all sound like Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, and that's why we live in a crappy country right now. Because we need to recognize that life actually does signify something. That's how we will have better sleep. That is how we will have a better country. That is how we will rub out that damn spot, is by recognizing that there's a moral order, there is sin, there is grace, there is truth, there is falsehood, there is goodness, there is evil, and there is redemption if only we seek it. I'm so glad you liked that clip. Stop, before you go anywhere, ring that bell, please. I'd appreciate that. You'll get the notifications. You'll find all the wonderful videos that we put out. And if our friends here at YouTube don't send you those notifications, head on over to Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you get your audio podcasts for free. You subscribe to The Michael Knowles Show. You will get the entire show uncensored. Too hot for social media. Check it out. See you next time.